We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. There's a choice we're making. We're saving our own lives. It's true, we'll make a better day. Just you and me.
Today, world is moving towards globalization, and so is India. But along with other people, there are many doubts in minds of the young people of this country. What are the challenges of globalization? So here is an expert with us today, Mr. John Huddleston. He has been on the IMF for more than 30 years, and at present he is on the board of an economic and social development foundation known as the Modern Development Services New York. He is also on the Baha'i Chair for World Peace, University of Maryland, as well on the Landeck Academy in Switzerland. Was globalization forced on India?
Well, the traditional view that often people have that the IMF and other international institutions have forced India into globalization, of course, is not true. They have encouraged India to do this, but they've certainly not forced India, which is a very important and powerful nation, cannot be forced. I think the issue is that globalization is a historic trend. It's been going on for 200 or 300 years, and it's a trend that's accelerating in our own time. And we see that countries which have joined globalization have benefited very much. You see the countries of East Asia, for instance, that have doubled or trebled their standard of living in the space of 20 to 25 years by having a global, an open economy. And I think the people of India have seen this, and they realize that the old policies of national socialism, which was the policy of this country and many other newly independent countries, really has not worked and has not produced the wealth that was expected. And so India, of its own volition, seeing what is happening, has chosen to join the global economy.
So what are the advantages of globalization for India?
Well, I think the advantages are that when you join a much bigger economy, you get the advantages of scale, greater efficiency. You get the advantage also of new companies coming in from outside with new ideas, new ways of doing things, producing new goods and services. The competition that this produces, I think, is very good for India because it inevitably is going to raise the quality of goods and services. And the general overall impact of this is that the total wealth of India undoubtedly will increase much faster than in the past, as has been shown by the experience of other countries that have followed this policy earlier than India.
But are not these industrial countries manipulating this global economy for their own purposes?
Well, I think all countries are concerned about the immediate impacts of the transition from a fragmented economic system to a global system. And clearly some of the industrial countries, including the Europeans and the Americans and the Japanese, are concerned about the impact on employment, on the farming, on the agricultural sector and so on. And so they try to resist some parts of the free trade system. And this is only natural, and I think other countries do it as well. India has sort of resisted certain aspects of it too. But I think, and we need to do something about this on the basis of using the international law to force countries to open up. But leaving aside all those issues, I think the benefits from moving into the global economy are so great for India that it should go ahead and not wait for those issues to be solved.
In your opinion, what are other costs involved for India in globalization?
Well, the process of globalization is really the process of moving over to the capitalist system. And I think the capitalist system has some inherent problems which are already manifesting themselves in the West, where the system is fully developed. And it's quite likely, in fact there are indicators already, that they will come to this country too eventually. The sort of problems that are deep in the capitalist system are, First of all, it tends to create extremes of wealth and poverty, and that was why the socialist system arose in the first place, but failed to answer that problem. Then we have the environmental problems. The capitalist system, because of its emphasis on producing more and more goods and services to be consumed, tends to brush aside environmental concerns, and this in the long run is very, very important, because we're destroying the natural capital assets of our children. And then thirdly, there's the whole question of the value system of the capitalist consumer model. There's a tendency to encourage instant gratification and ideas like greed and selfishness and undermining of the family, the rise of crime and drugs and those sort of issues. All these sort of moral value issues are perhaps in a way the most serious problem with the capitalist system. And India, as it moves into the global economy, has to be very concerned about all three of these issues.
So what do you think are the solutions to these problems?
Well, I think ultimately we have to be talking about a new economic model, one which can reconcile the virtues of the capitalist system with its emphasis on freedom and enterprise and initiative and innovation, those sort of very desirable qualities, and the qualities of the socialist system with its emphasis on reducing extremes of wealth and poverty, which of course always create tensions and do not allow people to develop themselves to their full potential. And also to bring this system into harmony with nature. So a new economic model, it seems to me, is very important, and we have to be working on that. A second thing is that I think we need to be talking about a new moral and value system, an international, universal education system for our children, so that they can adjust to this new global system. And finally, we need to strengthen the United Nations so that it has the ability to monitor a new global economy. Otherwise, we're going to have anarchy. Multinational companies, for instance, manipulating tax systems for one nation to another. All sorts of manipulations that companies can do unless there is one global authority regulating and auditing what's going on. And of course, the need for a stronger United Nations is also ultimately necessary to maintain law and order and the peace. And this is a vital aspect of an economy. If we can't have peace, we don't have law and order, then obviously a global economy is not going to work very well. So these are some of the approaches I feel we need to take to solve these very real problems that are going to be looming up in the next few years with globalization.
What you are saying seems hypothetical to many minds. What do you have to say about it?
Oh no, I don't think it's just hypothetical. I'm talking about very real issues. First of all, the globalization is a historic trend, and it's been going on for 200 or 300 years, and it's accelerating, and we have to learn how to manage it. The old methods will not be adequate for managing new situations, and situations which are accelerating in terms of change at a very vast, high speed. And the question of ethical values clearly is tremendously important. We see countries the social fabric starting to fall apart without it. Even in this country, we see the effect of corruption. We see in other countries like Korea, for instance, bad moral standards in companies producing bridges which fall down and apartment blocks that fall down. You know, this is not an adequate way of managing an economy. We have to have higher standards of morality in order to get the best out of our economic system. And I think democracy will demand it. People will not be satisfied with bridges that fall down or corruption which really acts as a brake on the development of the economy. Nor will people tolerate extreme poverty whilst there is extreme wealth. We have to deal with that issue. All these issues are very real and they're not hypothetical. We can't afford to dodge them. We have to face them directly.
True. Well, I understand what was hypothetical in the past is a reality today, and what is in the minds of many people, that hypothetical what model you are giving is going to be reality in very near future. Thank you very much, Mr. John Huddleston, to be with us.